What's going on, everyone? Glad to see you. Welcome to another episode of People's Power Lunch with me, Jacquie Luqman, People's Prophetess. Good afternoon. Happy Monday. Hope your weekend was really great. My weekend was good. Got some cleaning around the house done and all that kind of good stuff. And went to DC's Pride Parade, which was so much fun. It was so great. Cleaned up the backyard some to get ready for cookout season because it's cookout season. And it was a good weekend. So I hope your weekend was good as well. As always, we got to get through some housekeeping stuff. Thanks so much for you who are watching on Black Power Media. If you are not a member of Black Power Media, you should subscribe to Black Power Media. You can do that. And when you do, click on the notification bell to make sure you get notice when everybody on this channel uploads content, goes live, so you will not miss anything that we post on Black Power Media. You can also support Black Power Media on Patreon, patreon.com/Black Power Media. But you can also support Luqman Nation on Patreon, patreon.com/Luqman Nation, LuqMannation, one word. Patreon is where I will have at least a weekly patrons only power lunch with Jacquie Luqman. So if you want to get in on that, absolutely support Luqman Nation on Patreon, and you can do that for as little as $3, y'all. $3, $5, $7, whatever you can afford monthly. Much appreciated. All right, so I'm so glad that you all are in for these power lunches because this is a lot of fun to hang out with you guys in the middle of the day. It's great for me. So I'm so glad, Ricky Ryan, that your sticker arrived. Ricky Ryan letting folks know that the merch that patrons receive when they support Luqman Nation, that is one of the pieces of merchandise. You can get a sticker, then you can get a mug, and now I'm working on t-shirts and some new designs. So thank you so much for your patronage, patrons. Hope you really enjoy the merch that I have for you all. And there's more to come. So cool. First thing I want to do, folks, is to make a correction to something I said last week in last week's Power Lunch. Yes, Big Teal, Luqman Nation's got merch, but you can only get it through Patreon. Yes, so again, Patreon support levels 3, 5, 7, 20, or whatever per month, and you get on the list for receiving exclusive Luqman Nation merch. Yes. So, first, before I do anything else, let me say hey to everybody. Lisa Catlett, Emma Volval, what's going on? Big Teal, Eugene Mason, Miriam Francis, Ricky Ryan, Devin Dean, Devin Dean, Goddess Crew, Manny Nile, Ricky, I think I said that Ricky already, what's going on? Nate Turner, Kenneth, James Thompson, the Spider-Man 7285. What up, y'all? Peace. Thank you for joining me. All right, let me start let me start with a correction to something I said last week in the last power lunch. So I said that on January 6th, the cops beat or the rioters, the insurrectionists beat one of the cops to death. That is actually inaccurate. That is actually not true. Um, there were several people who died as a result of that January 6th insurrection, including some of the rioters. If you remember, I think it was two cops subsequently committed suicide after January 6th. But the one cop who died of, they couldn't quite figure out whether he died from injuries related to January 6th, but Michael Sicknick, the cop who died literally the next day after the insurrection, there were rumors floating around that the person, the rioter who threw the fire extinguisher, remember that video where you saw somebody in the crowd of insurrectionists throwing a whole fire extinguisher at the cops? There was conjecture that Sicknick was one of the cops who was hit in the head by that fire extinguisher. That was never confirmed. The coroner's report in Sicknick's case indicated that there were no indications of blunt force trauma that would have supported the idea that he was hit over the head with a fire extinguisher, or that he was literally physically beaten to death. So although I did not say that he was beaten with a fire extinguisher, I did incorrectly say that a cop was beaten to death. But here's the thing. Here's what the coroner's report also said, which I think is really important. And I think it goes to something we always say when cops strangle to death our people, right? And the coroner's office always comes back with some underlying disease that someone died from, that the cops want to claim that the person died from, as opposed to being killed by their encounter with the police. So here's what the officials said about Brian Sicknick's death. He suffered 2 strokes, and they say he died of natural causes the next day. But if you scroll down into this article in the Washington Post, they explained that the medical examiner's office said that in their timeline that they created leading up to Sicknick's death, they said that Sicknick collapsed 7 hours and 40 minutes after he was sprayed by the protesters with like bear spray or some other kind of chemical irritant. Then he died nearly 24 hours after that. And I hope my highlight, of course, my highlight didn't save here. Let me see if I can find the place where my highlight was supposed to have shown. Oh, here we go. So in the days after the riot, police and a Justice Department official attributed Sicknick's death to his efforts to contain the riot. Now, the official cause of death was that Sicknick suffered 2 strokes at the base of the brain stem caused by a clot in an artery that supplies blood to that area of the body. And they didn't comment on whether he had pre-existing medical conditions or not, right? So we don't know if he had a pre-existing medical condition that would have caused the clot to exist before the insurrection happened, right? But here's the thing, and I say this from experience, and I'm going to get really, really personal. Y'all know how I roll. My late husband, Abdus, died of an intracerebral hemorrhage that led to a stroke. It was a massive aneurysm that finally burst in his brain, and that led to a stroke. Now, we don't know how long he had the aneurysm, but I do know, and the medical examiner did find, that there was a particular incident that caused the aneurysm, even if it were there before, to burst and cause the stroke. So yeah, there's only so personal I'm gonna get, because everything ain't y'all business. But so even if my husband had an aneurysm before the incident that caused the aneurysm to burst, which more than likely he did, it just wasn't diagnosed because they're incredibly difficult to diagnose. If he had not encountered the event that he did encounter on the day that he died, it could very well be argued, and it is actually reflected in the medical examiner's report, that this other outside in outside issue actually precipitated the that his aneurysm burst, causing the stroke. Had that other thing not happened, would he have eventually suffered a burst aneurysm and an intracranial aneurysm and a stroke? Perhaps eventually, but not that day, right? So this is where I'm going with this thing about the cop who was killed by these January 6th insurrectionists, because although I was wrong in saying that they beat him to death, that is not true. They did cause his death. And the medical examiner actually backs that up. So they say that the medical examiner's ruling that Sicknick died of natural causes, according to the medical examiner's report. Sorry about that. According to the medical examiner's report, the two the blood clot does not mean that he was not assaulted, or that the violent events at the Capitol did not contribute to his death. The medical examiner, Diaz, noted that Sicknick was among the officers who engaged the mob, and said all that transpired played a role in his condition. So just like we, and for those of you, I'm going to drop this in the chat for y'all so you can read this for yourself. So just like when George Floyd was asphyxiated to death by that cop whose name I just refuse to mention these people's names. And remember, the medical examiner came back with all of this stuff about George Floyd's health issues, that he had had COVID, that he had high blood pressure, that he had all of that. They said all of that. But they refused to attribute the fact that he died that day because that cop put his knee on his neck for 9 minutes and stopped the airflow and stopped, George Floyd's airflow. Same thing with Eric Garner. Remember that? With Eric Garner, the autopsy report, oh, he had diabetes, he had hypertension, he was obese, blah, blah, blah. Well, if the cop hadn't strangled him that day, choked him out, he would still be alive with those conditions. Would those conditions have eventually caused a chronic episode and possibly have taken their life? Possibly. But had they not encountered the cops that day, on the day that they encountered those cops and died because of that encounter, they'd still be alive. So my argument stands with the cops who, particularly Michael Sicknick, who died as a result of the January 6th insurrection. And not just the cops, but the other people who died. People had heart attacks. I think it's like 6 people, some of them insurrectionists, who died as a result of that insurrection, that attempted insurrection. All right, so I just wanted to start the show with that, because look, I don't have a problem being wrong. I appreciate being corrected when I do say things that are incorrect. I'm only human. I can't get it all right. But I stand by what I said, and I mean it when I say that that mob that attacked the U.S. Capitol and attempted an insurrection were not only violent, but they caused the deaths of several people. I stand by that. And the second hearing in the January 6th, the select House committee, the House, what is it called? The House Select Committee on the investigation into the January 6th riot. That live streamed hearing will be aired tonight. I'm going to watch it. I'm here in the studios here at Sputnik, and one of the video monitors is showing like one of the previews, some of the previews of some of the presentations that they're going to show tonight during the hearing. So looks kind of interesting. So I'm going to watch it, and we'll talk about it a little later afterward. Okay. So let's talk about Russiagate and Hillary Clinton, because this is very, very interesting. It was so interesting when it happened. And the fact that major corporate media outlets like CNN and MSNBC, and certainly not Fox News, interestingly enough, Fox News, I don't think has picked it up, but the Washington Post, the New York Times, all the media outlets, the stenographers for the empire, as Sean Blackman calls them, did not pick up on this very, very important story. And it was actually an editorial that the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal published last month. So I'm going to share my screen, because when I saw it, I was like, I must be dreaming, y'all. I cannot believe that they actually published this, but they did. This is from the Wall Street Journal's editorial page. This was May 20th, 2022. And the headline, as you can see, simply says, Hillary Clinton did it. The subhead explains what they mean. Her 2016 campaign manager says she approved a plan to plant a false Russia claim with a reporter. This opinion was presented by the entire editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, May 20th, 2022. You didn't hear anything about it. If you don't read the Wall Street Journal, you would have never seen it. Because of the work I do, I read the Wall Street Journal, and I was shocked, surprised, amazed, and verklempt. I didn't know what to think. So I read on. And here are the details. So they were focusing on a trial that was going on at the time of Michael Sussman, who was the lawyer who was accused of lying to the FBI in regard to the Trump Alpha Bank allegations, right? And I'm going to talk more about that, the Trump Alpha Bank allegations, in a minute. But first, so this trial was going on for, I don't know, 3 weeks last month. And this, you also didn't see any coverage of this trial that went on right here in Washington, D.C., of Michael Sussman in the major media outlets, because they did not want, the major media outlets did not want to talk about the evidence that was presented in that trial that blew all of these Russiagate claims completely to smithereens. Of course, the conservative Washington Examiner, they published regular updates of the trial, but you didn't see it talked about in CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, nowhere. So the testimony that led them to this conclusion came from Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook. Remember him? Because Robbie Mook testified in this trial. So prosecutors presented evidence that Sussman worked with cyber researchers and the opposition research firm Fusion GPS. Remember them? The ones who were involved in the debacle in the, what was it, the 2020 primaries? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But they were tied to the Clinton campaign. And then a key part of this testimony revealed that an FBI agent testified that the Bureau's analysis of the evidence that Sussman presented to them was just garbage. And they very quickly determined that the claims he presented were garbage. But again, I'm going to get to that in a minute. So when Robbie Mook testified, there we go. Let me highlight that. And I want to make sure y'all can see it and y'all can read it. Let me, a little bit bigger. So we can all read along. Whoops. There we go. So when prosecutors asked Robbie Mook, who was testifying, about his role in crafting these Alpha Bank claims and how they got to the press, Robbie Mook admitted under oath that the campaign didn't have the expertise to vet the data. However, the decision was made by Mook, policy advisor Jake Sullivan, who is now President Biden's national security advisor, spinning the lies about Russia and Ukraine. Communications director Jennifer Palmieri and campaign manager John Podesta to give those Alpha Bank claims that they knew their campaign didn't have any expertise to actually confirm were true to a reporter. That's bad enough. That is bad enough. But then Mook testified under oath that said that Hillary Clinton was asked about the plan to give these unverified claims about this connection between Donald Trump and a Russian Alpha Bank to the press, and Hillary Clinton approved the plan. He testified to it. This isn't conjecture. Now, you and I have known since 2016 that Russiagate was bullshit. And even for people who just really hate Russia or really hate Putin, because it's not that people hate Russia, it's that people hate Putin. And let me be clear, folks. Let me be clear, my friends. The reason there is so much Russophobia and Putin hatred in this country today, and the reason so many people in this country are out here waving Ukrainian flags and raising money for Ukrainian kids and talking about we need to save Ukraine from Putin is because of Russiagate. Russiagate that was crafted out of whole cloth, bunch of lies from the Clinton campaign, approved by Hillary Clinton herself, was the spark that was lit repeatedly over and over again, fanning the flames of anti-Russian hysteria since 2016. And Robbie Mook, in this trial just last month, just a few weeks ago, testified under oath in federal court that Hillary Clinton not only knew these claims about links between Donald Trump and this bank in Russia were lies, but she approved the lies to be leaked to the press. But not only that, y'all. So when the story appeared in Slate magazine, I guess they want to call it a left-leaning, that okay, we don't have time to get into that. But okay, so the story appeared in Slate magazine because they leaked the story. They gave the information to Slate to publish. Then, after that, Jake Sullivan issued a statement about the Slate story saying this could be the most direct link yet between Donald Trump and Moscow. Again, y'all, nobody on the campaign verified any of those claims about this link between Trump and this Alpha Bank in Moscow. All right. Then, after Sullivan issued that statement, then Hillary Clinton tweeted Sullivan's statement with the added comment, computer scientists have apparently uncovered a covert server linking the Trump organization to a Russian-based bank. Computer scientists didn't uncover nothing because they didn't have computer scientists on their campaign team to validate anything. The woman literally tweeted out a lie. And then nothing was uncovered. There was no covert server. None of this was true. But basically, the Clinton campaign, and this is not my words, I'm going to read what the Wall Street Journal editorial board said about this, what this testimony reveals, and what it implies, what it says about the Clinton campaign and Russiagate. So they say, in short, the Clinton campaign created the Trump Alpha allegation, fed it to a credulous press that failed to confirm the allegations, but ran with them anyway, then promoted the story as if it was legitimate news. The Clinton campaign, also delivered the claims to the FBI, giving journalists another excuse to portray the accusations as serious and perhaps true. And the Wall Street Journal editorial board even goes so far as to say most of the press will ignore this news, and they have. But the Russia-Trump narrative that Mrs. Clinton sanctioned did enormous harm to the country. Look at where we are. It disgraced the FBI. Now, I got to argue with that because in our circles, the FBI been disgraced, but okay. Humiliated the press and sent the country on a 3-year investigation into nowhere. The Mueller report. Vladimir Putin never came close to doing as much disinformation damage. That's from the Wall Street Journal, y'all. So I guess I could say it's nice to be vindicated in corporate media, but honestly, the damage really is done. Because here we are, the US government is waging a proxy war against Russia using Ukraine. The Biden administration is approving hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in military aid and all kinds of other economic aid that's going to Ukraine. And people in this country, too many people in this country are all for it because since 2016, I had to count to make sure, 6 whole years, because for 6 whole years without ceasing, people who questioned or challenged the argument that Russia interfered in US elections, that Russia hacked the DNC server, that Trump was in collusion with Russia and that's how he won. We were demonized for 6 years. And for 6 years, corporate media pushed this narrative that Putin, Russia, undermined US democracy. And remember the racial component to Russiagate, those allegations of Russian firms linked to Putin that propped up fake social media pages that were focused toward racial and social justice, to imply that it was particularly Black folks who were duped by this Russian disinformation, misinformation campaign about, and convinced us to either not vote or not vote for Hillary Clinton. Remember that? Mm-hmm. So God in Formation just said the Wall Street Journal ain't trustworthy, and what you just read was as selective of a retelling as the Wall Street. See, I actually follow the trial that they are talking about. I actually read the testimony of Robbie Mook. He actually said that he actually admitted under oath that Hillary Clinton approved that lie, that unverified lie, to be leaked to the press, God in Formation. And by the way, the Wall Street Journal didn't tell me anything new because we have been talking about the fact that Russiagate was a bullshit lie long before the Wall Street Journal editorial board came around to finally figuring it out themselves. So honestly, whether the Wall Street Journal is trustworthy or not is clearly not the point of what I am talking about today. The point I am making is that a corporate media outlet finally told the truth that was revealed under oath in testimony from one of the people who actually did it. And the media, the rest of the corporate media, isn't talking about it at all. So I'm not sitting here, God in Formation, patting the Wall Street Journal on the back. If you were listening, you would have got that. Anyway, so let's talk about this trial. Let's talk about the trial that this happened. So Michael Sussman was on trial last month for lying to the FBI. And if you know anything about the FBI, you know that the one thing you cannot do to the FBI is lie to them. I mean, if you did something, if you committed a quote unquote crime, it's probably best to just tell the FBI that you did it. Don't lie and say that because they will sue you. They will charge you for lying to the FBI. Lying to the FBI is actually an offense. It's a criminal offense that they will take you to court for. And that's what happened with Michael Sussman. So let me refresh some people's trial after being indicted by a federal grand jury last year for lying to the FBI about who his clients were. So in September of 2016, Michael Sussman requested to meet with the FBI General Counsel at FBI headquarters here in Washington, D.C., to provide them with evidence that allegedly demonstrated this covert communication channel between the Trump organization and this Russia-based bank, right? Sussman, excuse me, was the one who represented the Democratic National Committee in connection with the cyber hack that, remember, the DNC claim blamed on Russia. And he falsely stated to general counsel that he was not bringing those allegations of this link between Trump and this Russian bank to the FBI on behalf of any client. So why is that important? Because the FBI, or at least the general counsel that Sussman met with, believed that he was providing the information as a good citizen rather than as a paid advocate or a political operative. Now, look, I know that sounds ridiculous. I know that's silly. I know that for the FBI to actually say that somebody is coming to them with evidence of, connections of a political figure to some nefarious entity, they know damn well that is politically motivated. They know that. It's not just some random good citizen. They know that, but that's how the FBI rolls. So this is why I'm not sitting here defending the FBI. I'm just giving you the facts of the case. So the truth, of course, was that Michael Sussman assembled that information and conveyed these allegations to the FBI on behalf of at least two clients, including a U.S. technology executive, and guess who? Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. So, in court proceedings against Sussman, it was revealed that Scott Hellman, who is currently an FBI supervisory special agent who leads a team investigating cybercrime, said he and a supervisor retrieved the thumb drives and other information that Sussman gave the FBI the day after he met with the general counsel of the FBI. And they reviewed the secret communication claims, and Hellman said under oath that he and his team quickly rejected those claims. In his testimony about the data that he and the FBI received, that they analyzed, he said, quote, "We did not agree with the conclusion that this data, that information that Sussman provided them, represented a secret communication channel, because whoever had written that paper had jumped to some conclusions that were not supported by the data." He said the methodology they chose was questionable to me. He couldn't figure out how they came up with the claim that this data represented some secret back channel communications. So he actually said in his testimony that the claims of a secret channel didn't make sense to us, in part because it was implausible that the Trump organization would use its own name to connect to a Russian bank directly when it was allegedly supposed to be secret. He said there was not enough data there to make the conclusion that there were any communication or the secret communication between the Trump organization and Russia, Hellman said. But the thing is, he wasn't the only person who doubted the truth of Sussman's claims and the data that Sussman presented. Special Counsel Robert Mueller, the FBI, the CIA, and a bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee investigation, and the special counsel to the Department of Justice, John Durham's team, they have all cast doubt on or have outright rejected this secret back channel alpha bank communications claim between Trump and Russia, that the Clinton campaign and the corporate media, every outlet in the corporate media, have been just reporting on and droning on and just beating us over the head with for 6 years. They completely, all of those entities, all of them, completely discredited Sussman's documentation. But you ain't never hear nothing about that until it gets revealed in this trial that happened last month, that was not covered by major corporate media outlets, that was covered by some conservative media outlets. And as shady and crappy as they are, at the very least, they covered it. You didn't hear anything about any of this from anywhere else. All right? So Hellman also testified, "I did not feel like that was the most expeditious way to present or to find this covert or secret communications." Why? Because the so-called evidence of these secret communications between the Trump organization and this Alpha Bank in Russia were actually basically just information that was found in internet searches using the word Trump. I swear to you, that's what he said. He testified, "I did not feel like that was the most expeditious way. They were just looking for key terms on the internet, doing internet searches. It didn't make sense to me." Hellman said Russia would have had a much better technical capability to hide such secret communications than a direct link between the Trump organization and Russia. He said, "I did not feel they were objective in the conclusions that they came to. The assumption that you would have to make was so far reaching that it just didn't make sense." Again, for people who may be just joining, I'm not sitting here defending the FBI. I'm not defending this FBI agent, cybercrime investigator Hellman. I am just telling you what the testimony about these Trump Alpha Bank allegations reveal in this trial against Michael Sussman really show that there was no there, and there was never any there. So then the part about Sussman hiding who his clients were obviously comes up in the trial, because that's why Sussman is on trial. And Hellman said in his testimony, the motivation of whoever is giving me the information is very important. Sussman's white paper given to the FBI was authored. It was written by opposition research firm Fusion GPS, which was hired by the Clinton campaign's lawyer, Mark Elias. Fusion GPS was also responsible for hiring British ex-spy Christopher Steele, the author of another discredited dossier that was supposed to destroy Donald Trump. Remember the Steele dossier? Mm-hmm. Special counsel John Durham also said that Sussman claimed to the CIA in 2017 that data to which he had access demonstrated that Trump and or his associates were using supposedly rare Russian-made wireless phones called Yoda phones in the vicinity of the White House and other locations. The special counsel revealed the CIA concluded in early 2017 that the Alpha Bank and Yoda phone information was not technically plausible and did not withstand technical scrutiny. You know why? Because the Yoda phone is actually a thing. It really is. It's a phone that is manufactured in Russia, but it's just a 2-screened Android phone that was developed in Russia. It's not rare, and it sure as hell ain't clandestine. Sussman, who also helped the Democratic National Committee handle its response to the alleged Russian hack of the 2016 election, denies wrongdoing. Of course, he pleaded not guilty to lying to the FBI, which I have to tell you, he was actually acquitted of lying to the FBI. He was. But all the evidence point to Sussman and the DNC fabricating this claim of Russia hacking the 2016 election and Trump having ties to Russia. Now, understand the fact that Michael Sussman was acquitted of lying to the FBI does not invalidate all of the damning evidence that was presented in the trial about the complicity of Hillary Clinton in pushing this lie about Russiagate. Because remember, that's not what this trial was about. So this is why people like Robbie Mook could testify in open court and have his comments on record saying, yep, we didn't have computer experts on the campaign to validate any of this information, but we gave the plan to Hillary Clinton and she said to go ahead with it and give it to the press anyway. He can testify to that under oath because nobody's on trial for lying about Russiagate. Michael Sussman's trial was about him lying to the FBI about who his clients were. That's it. He's not even on trial, or he wasn't even on trial for giving the FBI false information. His trial literally was just about him lying to the FBI about who his clients were. That's it. So, and look, I also don't want anyone to hear what I'm saying and think that I am defending Donald Trump. Fuck him. This is the fact that the Hillary Clinton campaign with John Podesta's help. It was actually his plan to elevate the worst of the Republican candidates and put them on a pedestal. It was the Pied Piper strategy. That's what was revealed in the leak of the DNC server emails, John Podesta's emails. That was his plan, to elevate candidates like Donald Trump because they were so ridiculously bad they couldn't possibly win against Hillary Clinton. And what happened? So we got this country and voters who cared, they got Donald Trump because of John Podesta and the Hillary Clinton campaign. So this is not at all a defense of Donald Trump. No, this is a condemnation and a confirmation, actually, of my continued consistent, have never changed, always said it was bullshit condemnation of Hillary Clinton, the Clinton campaign, their strategy to elevate Donald Trump, and them losing because their own strategy backfired. And instead of admitting, we really screwed the pooch on that one, what did they do? They crafted Russiagate to literally blame Putin and Black people who were too stupid to decide for themselves and were so dumb that we were duped into either not voting for Hillary Clinton or not voting at all by some shoe ads and some rainbow bikini Bernie ads on Facebook. That's literally what they alleged. That's what I'm talking about today. There was a court case in Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago where the evidence that Russiagate was a lie and Hillary Clinton knew it was a lie and pushed it out there to the media anyway. And what's going to be done about it? Nothing. Because the damage is already done, y'all. We can see that the damage is already done. We've got people in this country who are cheering on a proxy war, not caring that we are needing to get baby formula shipped in from other countries because of the baby formula shortage, because of the capitalist monopolization of the baby formula market in this country. We've got the fossil fuel companies making a killing in profits while they price gouge the price of gasoline and then turn around and blame it on Russia. The price of food, meat in particular, has gone up. But Tyson Foods, while it's telling people that, well, we want you to just pay for this little painful inflation. Meanwhile, Tyson Foods just made record profits, just recorded another quarter of record profits. And you got people in this country blaming all of this economic hardship, the inflation, raising of interest rates, all of these economic hardships, blaming all of that on Putin because the media told you to. Meanwhile, it was the media at the direction of the Hillary Clinton campaign that created the ideological conditions that people are literally standing in line, taking this economic ass whooping and blaming Vladimir Putin for it. And in the middle of that, the Ukrainian people are being bombed to hell after being bombed to hell for 8 years by the Kiev army. Now the Ukrainian people are in the middle of the U.S. bombing, provoking Russia. So nothing's going to be done. Nothing really going to be done about Russiagate because the cat's out of the bag. The damage is done. There's no going back from this. There is no turning back. I mean, the people involved in the Clinton campaign, Jake Sullivan is now Joe Biden's national security advisor. He's the one continuing to craft the lies about Russian aggression toward Ukraine. He's just continuing to do what he did in 2016. So I just thought that was really interesting, and I appreciate Easy D for bringing that up last week to talk about that. I doubt that anything is going to be done to any of the people involved in the Russiagate lie. You better believe Hillary Clinton is going to run again in 2024. She is going to pull her decrepit behind from a corner somewhere, and all of the Democrats and the neoliberals and even some Republicans, watch, even some Republicans, because a neoliberal spans both parties, are going to back themselves from Hillary Clinton, and the corporate media outlets are going to endorse her, and then we're going to have this conversation again. So, all right. That's today's People's Power Lunch. Let me go up and check out what you guys have said. Yes, I know Slate is not left. That's why I made the comment I made. Some people might call it that, but no, they're not. Let's see. What else we got? Good point, Kamal. Hillary was tweeting lies just like Trump was tweeting lies. Our choices are always one snake or the other snake. Truer words cannot be spoken, Kamal, or truer words cannot be typed. That's for sure. Absolutely, Miriam. We have the situation in Ukraine right now, thanks to these fools. And understand, Ukraine was that was anti-Russia Russian aggression, or Russian aggression is a bipartisan sport in Washington D.C. It's just interesting that in this moment in time in particular, there are more Republicans who are opposing spending more money and sending it to Ukraine than there are Democrats. That's just weird trick of fate, I guess. I don't know. Me too, Ricky. I am still called a Russian bot. And a Russian agent and all that kind of stuff. And who got the most fallout from Russiagate? Black folks, particularly Black leftists. Particularly Black leftists who have been critical of the entire electoral establishment. We're the ones who got the most fallout from it. Ain't nobody ever gonna apologize to us either. So, and their apologies are empty. They can't undo this damage. They cannot undo this damage. Oh, let's see. Absolutely. Michael Brown said, looking forward to Hillary catching another L. You know what? When I look at the Democrats and who they could potentially have running for president, I will say that if Hillary runs, then all of her primary opponents will back out and give her the nomination. I think that will happen if Hillary runs. Will she win against anybody the Republicans put forth for president? I don't think so. So on the one hand, I think we're going to have to endure, if Hillary Clinton runs again, we're going to have to endure another election cycle of, you have to vote for Hillary or else. But then at the end of the day, I think that what will happen, if what I think will happen with the nomination does happen, I don't think she's going to win. I don't think any Democratic candidate is going to win a presidential election against a Republican. I am poor. I am expecting the worst. Not that either party would be good for us in particular, but this time, yeah, I'm expecting the entire worst. So cool, y'all. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today on your People's Power Lunch. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was nutritious. Share this video, remember to like. Appreciate you so much. As always, be really, really good to each other. Be good to yourselves. I'll catch you on the next People's Power Lunch, which could be tomorrow, depends on how these hearings go tonight. But as always, folks, a luta continua. The struggle continues. Victoria Assertina. I'm sorry, Victoria Asserta. Victory is certain. Y'all be good for the rest of the day. At least you can do that, right? All right, peace.